Hello, everybody. I hope all is well. Things are okay on my end. I've been thinking about the value or virtue in having a significant degree of social isolation today because things out in the world are very unpleasant. Culture is really bad, and especially if you're a young person, there's kind of like encouragement to be sort of a jackass or to treat things like there is no seriousness attached to them. It just like a lot of popular social trends and habits today are almost like geared towards or intent, almost like they're designed, right? If they were designed to destroy the possibility of personal growth. That seems to be a big thing today. But once you're away from it, if you somehow can be, then you're good to go, right? Nobody can hold you back if you exercise freedom of association if you can. But goodness gracious, it's really astonishing how you have to really go out of your way to get that. It's not something that comes easily. So hopefully, for those of us who would appreciate, something of a uplifting community or culture, we find it. One hopes, but it's probably going to take a ton of of separation, patience, waiting. Maybe I don't know. It's just there's not even things within popular culture, things that influence society, today that seem to have avoided the problem of general cultural triviality and unseriousness. Um, that's really bothersome. One could say it bugs me. Um, I mean, you really have to like isolate and incubate and curate your own media. The art you look at, the books you read, the opinion pieces you read, the people who you bother to get to know. Not, I don't mean personally, although that's a part of it, but you know, people out there who influence the world, are they living or dead? You're better off usually with the dead people, but you have to pay attention to society. So I don't mean to lambast, everybody, or well, I kind of do, but I don't mean to suggest that you shouldn't interface at all with society at present because it's still important, obviously. But oy, 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 oy. What a mess we're in. I mean, it could be worse. I always tell people who I know who relate to a lot of my criticism of the world at present, I tell them that yes, there's a lot that's going wrong today. It's very shocking, but we live in the information age and we can interface with the best of culture previously, and also, there I think it's wrong for a person who doesn't know anything about the past to anathematize against the past and say it was all bad and that it was evil, it was oppressive and repressive without having like studied it or checked it out. Because if you come with that perspective, typically you might be saying things that are functionally true but for the wrong reasons. Or for an absence of reasons, and you might be actually imprecise in how you criticize the past, and you'll certainly be blind to the virtues of the past. So I think it's wrong to say that from a position of like incuriosity and ignorance, but it is also the case that yeah, there was a lot about the past that would be kind of maddening. Of course, I'm biased because I've lived in late modern society, so I have these tastes and trends. But like a lot of smart people who were around for, I'll say, the Victorian era, knew it was repressive and hypocritical and pretty ridiculous, and it was so like the obsession people had for scandal and like the I don't know. I was reading about the Oscar Wilde's life in the trial, but it's like a ton of artists who like people who were a part of the decadent movement at the time, like Epate la bourgeoisie. You know you can tell they were bothered, and you wouldn't have much escape from that, to be honest. A lot of the people who were transgressive or a little challenging, flirting with transgression, if not fully transgressive, were sowing the seeds for a change in Western thought, and that change hasn't really all been good, to be honest. Just because I think, while society is supposedly open, it's actually really anti-intellectual. Seems to have missed like the genius and greatness of, we'll say, like progressive, if you want to use that term. I don't think that's accurate, but everything has to be fed into this siphon. But okay, the people who were writing works that were challenging traditional morals or whatever, okay, we seem to have missed like the stuff that made them actually valuable and intelligent. Today, people have a sort of like they're a part of an intellectual free-for-all where they don't understand why they believe in the things that they understand. They're very unsubtle. They're like really mind-numbing to listen to. They are incurious. They're prejudiced in a different way, but they're prejudiced and they're intolerant in relation to things that they don't understand, or they don't want to exit their intellectual bubble. Those are the things that are really bad. And I have this argument, actually, I should have made it in my other video about Oscar Wilde, where the Victorian era and our era are perhaps as prejudiced, just in different ways. Like the Philistine mass society that so many people were railing against in the 19th century, they would probably die from suicide if they lived today, if they saw what had happened. I mean, at least at a first glance, they'd have to work really hard to find a life that they would find suitable. But I mean, it's so, yeah, the amount of intolerance, it's just ridiculous. I've spoken about this before. But anyways, that being said, like, that's all a big problem. But there were ways in which things were also oppressive in the past, okay? Like, even just the way you dressed and the way you had to act at dinner would be fucking miserable to somebody like me. I don't want to have to, like, if I'm going to somebody's house to have dinner, so we have to all meet each other at the second floor, and when we go downstairs to eat, one man has to accompany a woman, but they shouldn't be a couple, and then there must be an even amount of people at the dinner table, and there should be more men than women so that the couples don't end up just talking to each other. Like, and that's like one little thing. And I would have to keep up with, the manners books that get printed. That would drive me crazy. And so I probably would, if I even read Rousseau at that time, I'd be fantasizing about living the savage life or something, or I'd fantasize about living in the Orient, and I'd be reading these Orientalist writers who were evoking like a fantastic and more anarchic and sensuous lifestyle in the East, and that would be really, really taxing. And then everybody's looking at your business, and every small thing becomes a scandal. Every small thing becomes grounds for a libel lawsuit. Like, that would drive me fucking nuts. So we don't really have to deal with stuff at that petty level today. There's more like disregard for how people act in the small things, I guess. But still, there's outrage on certain things that if you attract this outrage, you're screwed and you will be dehumanized. And the amount of scrutiny would be like potentially, if it's really bad, global. The whole world can like investigate your shit and get on you. It's just like, that's actually crazy. So anyways, you have to avoid those certain things. So you have to avoid that stuff. But you can, so like I said, I'm not being so looked at insofar as my table manners, and I can read all the great books that came out of the 19th century. I can actually find them easily. I can get them shipped to me. I can read them online if I wanted to on my fucking cell phone, like in a second. I can look at all the art that was around at the time, so I can enjoy all that stuff. And then you can start to sort of be influenced, and you can want a slower, sort of more contemplative life if you want. If you're influenced by all these people who lived before the hysteria that we live in today, that everything is rootless and swirling, nothing has time to settle and grow. You can actually combat that stuff if you move your mind elsewhere, away from all the junk that's swirling around, all the cultural pollution that we live, enveloped in. So that's good. And then, it's not even like, by the way, the 19th century is not emblematic of all of the past. Even the 18th century was more free in certain regards than it was in the 19th, at least in terms of manners and moralizing and whatnot. A lot of books that were written in the 18th century were seen as obscene or scandalous or inappropriate in the 19th century. So it's not like you can paint all of the past in a broad brush. And then on top of that, what does seem to ever remain a constant change is technological development, because in the 21st century we're living in an era that's unparalleled. So and that adds. There's so many bad things associated with it, but there's a lot of good too. So if you try and keep the good and the bad separate and just focus on the good, things aren't too bad. Things could be way worse, to be honest. So there's the ease that technology has added to our lives and the advances in health science and things like this. I mean, that stuff is fantastic. That's not something you want to get rid of, but you just have to be very good at curating your life, because there's so much junk in modernity today that almost makes it seem like none of it was worth it, and that's a huge problem, because it really can make it seem that way, and it's not true. But it shouldn't be that way, but it just is. All right, that was my rant. Take care.